Dr. Emma Williams had imagined first contact thousands of times during her career at NASA, but none of her scenarios had prepared her for this level of humiliation. The United Nations General Assembly Hall, usually a symbol of human unity and achievement, had been modified to accommodate the towering forms of the Craxi delegation. The aliens had insisted on standing rather than using the fragile human furniture, their 9-foot frames casting long shadows across the chamber floor. Their crystalline skin caught the light from the historic hall's chandeliers, creating an almost hypnotic display that did nothing to soften their intimidating presence. "And these," Ambassador Kovacs announced, his metallic voice dripping with barely concealed disdain, "are the tools your species uses for scientific research." He lifted a high-end microscope from the technology display with 3 of his diamond-hard fingers. The device, worth more than some cars, looked like a child's toy in his massive hand. Emma forced her diplomatic smile to remain fixed, even as the neural interface, hidden beneath her formal attire, recorded every micro-expression and biometric reading from the alien delegation. "That's one of our standard laboratory tools, yes. We've made significant advances in." The crack of breaking glass and metal cut through her presentation as Kovacs crushed the microscope with a casual flex of his hand. Gasps echoed through the human delegation, while amused trills and clicks arose from the gathered representatives of 30 different alien species. "Fascinating," Kovacs said, letting the broken pieces rain down onto the presentation table. "That your species has survived this long using such primitive implements, though perhaps we shouldn't be surprised, given the fragility of your own forms." Emma's fingers tightened on the podium, the pressure sensors in her hidden interface recording the spike in her vital signs. Behind her, she could hear the whispers of the alien delegates, their translator devices making sure everyone could understand their mockery. "Look at their epidermal layer. Barely any protection at all. Their bones would snap under standard mining conditions. How do they survive with such limited strength?" The Craxi ambassador stepped forward, his crystalline form towering over Emma's podium. "The Galactic Confederation welcomes all species, of course," he announced, his voice pitched to carry throughout the chamber. "Even those still in their evolutionary infancy. We will be happy to provide guidance, protection, and oversight as your species matures." The condescension in his tone made the meaning clear. Earth would be little more than a protectorate, a primitive curiosity to be managed by the advanced species of the Confederation. Emma's smile never wavered, even as her neural interface captured every detail of the Craxi's biological structure. The crystalline formations that made them so durable, the joint mechanisms that gave them their strength, every potential weakness hidden behind their overwhelming physical presence. "We look forward to learning from the Confederation," she replied, her voice steady. The tiny camera in her lapel captured the subtle signs of surprise in the alien delegation. They'd expected fear, anger, or at least embarrassment at their display of superiority. Her calm acceptance seemed to unsettle them more than any protest could have. As the meeting concluded and the alien delegations filed out, Emma remained at her podium, apparently reviewing her notes. Only once the last observer had left did she allow her hand to slide into her pocket, activating the quantum-encrypted communicator hidden there. "Director," she vocalized, the device picking up the vibrations through her jaw. "You're receiving the data." "Every bit," came the quiet reply. "The arrogant bastards just gave us everything we needed. Project Prometheus is ready to begin final calibrations." Emma's smile, for the first time that day, became genuine. Let them think humanity weak. Let them believe they'd found easy prey. In labs deep beneath the Earth's surface, that arrogance would become their greatest weakness. "Schedule the next meeting," she instructed. Let's give them a few more chances to underestimate us. The elevator descended 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, but Colonel James "Iron Jack" Anderson knew they were just getting started. Beside him, Dr. Emma Williams watched the depth counter with barely concealed anticipation. Neither of them spoke until they passed the final security checkpoint, their biometrics confirming their identities for the 13th time. "They called us primitive today," Emma finally said, breaking the silence. The Craxi ambassador crushed a $1 million microscope like it was made of paper. Jack's weather-worn face broke into a grin that had earned him his nickname. "Did you get good readings?" "Perfect ones." Emma's hand brushed the neural interface at the base of her skull. Crystal lattice structure, joint mechanics, muscle density, everything the development team needed. The elevator doors opened to Project Prometheus's heart. A cavern large enough to house a small city, carved from solid bedrock and reinforced with next-generation materials that even the Confederation would envy if they knew they existed. "Speaking of the development team," Jack said, leading her toward the testing arena, "they've been eager to show you the latest breakthrough." The arena's observation deck overlooked a space the size of a football field. Below them, a figure in what looked like a sleek wetsuit stood, facing what appeared to be a military obstacle course. But Emma knew better. Every obstacle was designed to test limits that the aliens thought humans could never approach. "Running test sequence Alpha 7, a voice announced over the speakers. "Subject: Lieutenant Sarah Cooper, Atlas Generation 5. The figure below rolled her shoulders, and Emma caught the faint shimmer of active camouflage adapting to the movement. "They think that suit is just athletic wear," Jack explained. "The outer layer is actually a metacamber matrix, thousands of microscopic machines working in perfect sync." "Begin test," the voice commanded. What happened next made Emma forget her diplomatic composure. Sarah moved like lightning, crossing the arena in a blur that even the high-speed cameras struggled to track. She didn't just navigate the obstacle course, she danced through it. 30-foot walls were scaled in seconds, not with brute force, but with a fluid grace that made gravity seem optional. "Force multiplication test," Jack announced, pressing a button. A hydraulic press designed to test tank armor descended from the ceiling. Sarah caught it with one hand, the ground beneath her feet not even cracking under the pressure. "How?" Emma started. "The suit doesn't just amplify strength," Jack explained, his voice full of pride. "It anticipates, adapts, and redistributes force through a neural link similar to yours. Sarah isn't fighting against 50 tons of pressure. She's working with it, redirecting it, the same way a martial artist uses an opponent's strength against them, but at a quantum level." Sarah demonstrated this by gently setting the press aside, then moving to a table set with various objects. With the same hand that had just resisted 50 tons of force, she picked up an raw egg, handling it with perfect precision. "But the real breakthrough," Jack continued, "came after your last meeting with the Craxi. Their crystalline biology gave us the final piece we needed." He nodded to the control room, and a holographic target appeared, a perfect replica of a Craxi warrior. Sarah's suit shimmed, the metachamber matrix reconfiguring itself. When she moved again, it was with the exact same biomechanical efficiency as their alien superiors. Every strike hit with surgical precision, at points that Emma recognized from her scans, stress points in the crystal structure, joint vulnerabilities that the Craxi thought were perfectly protected. "We're not just matching their strength," Jack said quietly. "We're learning to fight exactly how they do, then taking it one step further. Every time they mock us, every demonstration of their superiority just gives us more data to work with." Emma watched as Sarah completed the test sequence, the suit powering down to its camouflaged state. "How many?" 50 units ready now, with production capacity for 500 more. Each one custom-fitted to its operator. Each operator chosen for both physical and psychological resilience. Jack's expression grew serious. We're ready, Dr. Williams. The only question is, when do you want to show them exactly how primitive we aren't? Emma thought of the Craxi ambassador's sneering face, of the laughter that had echoed through the UN chamber. Soon, she said. Very soon. The holographic display in the Oval Office showed Ambassador Kovacs's massive form in perfect detail, his crystalline skin refracting light across the historic room's walls. Emma Williams stood before it, maintaining her carefully crafted expression of polite interest as the alien delivered his generous proposal. A competition. Kovacs repeated, his metallic voice barely containing his amusement. To properly assess Earth's standing within the Confederation. Surely you see the logic in this approach. President Mitchell, seated behind his desk, glanced at Emma. They'd rehearsed this moment for weeks, every response calculated to draw their opponents deeper into their own trap. And the events? Emma asked, her voice carrying just a hint of uncertainty. What sorts of competitions did you have in mind? The Craxi ambassador's crystal fragments shifted in what she'd learned was their version of a predatory smile. Simple tests of capability. Trials of strength, speed, combat prowess. Nothing too strenuous for your people, of course. We wouldn't want any unfortunate accidents. Through her neural interface, Emma sent a single word to the quantum-encrypted tablet on the president's desk. Perfect. It seems, she said aloud, allowing a slight tremor to enter her voice, rather one-sided. Given the physical differences between our species. Oh, we've taken that into account, Kovacs assured her, his tone dripping with false sympathy. Each event will be judged on a sliding scale. We don't expect humans to match Craxi's strength directly. Even achieving 10% of our capabilities would be considered admirable. President Mitchell cleared his throat, playing his part perfectly. And the stakes of these competitions? Merely ceremonial. Kovacs lied smoothly. A way to determine Earth's proper place in Confederation hierarchy. After all, resources, technology access, trade routes, all these must be allocated based on each species' demonstrable capabilities. Emma pretended to consider this, though the neural interface was already transmitting the entire conversation to Project Prometheus. They'd known this was coming. The Craxi had used similar tactics on 3 other worlds, each time using friendly competition to force species into effective servitude. I have a counter-proposal, she said finally, letting her voice strengthen with apparent determination. Make it public, not just the results. Everything. Full Confederation coverage, live broadcasts to every member world. Kovacs's crystal fragments shifted again, this time in genuine surprise. You would want your performance witnessed by the entire Confederation. If we're to be judged, Emma said, standing straighter, let it be before the eyes of the galaxy. Give us 3 months to prepare. Allow us to choose our own champions, and let everyone see exactly what humanity is capable of. The alien ambassador's laughter filled the room, a sound like breaking glass. Agreed. Yes, let the galaxy witness this historic moment. 3 months is more than generous. Though if you wish to proceed sooner, we would be happy to accommodate. 3 months, Emma insisted. We are but a primitive species after all. We need time to, what was your phrase? Properly prepare our bodies for the honor. After the transmission ended, President Mitchell let out a long breath. He bought it. Emma's diplomatic mask finally cracked into a genuine smile. Completely. Their cultural database indicates that Craxi consider public humiliation the ultimate victory. They'll broadcast every second, invite every species, make it impossible for anyone to miss the show. And Project Prometheus. She touched her neural interface, receiving the latest update from the mountain facility. Final combat simulations are exceeding all projections. Lieutenant Cooper's team has mastered the new configurations. We're ready. The risk, the President started, is already calculated, Emma finished. The Craxi won't just be overconfident. They'll be certain of victory. Their entire strategy relies on our fear of embarrassment, our need to save face. They've never encountered a species that would deliberately set up their own public humiliation, because they've never met humans before. Mitchell nodded, understanding. Exactly. Emma's smile turned predatory, not unlike the Craxi's own. They think they're Spring the Trap. They don't realize they're walking right into ours. The Confederation news feed projected across the Project Prometheus command center made Colonel Anderson's blood boil. On screen, a towering Zixtil reporter stood outside the official human training facility in Colorado, where carefully selected decoy athletes went through their paces. As you can see, the insectoid alien chittered, multiple arms gesturing at the weight room behind him. The humans continue their charming but futile attempts to prepare for the upcoming trials. Sources within the Craxi delegation suggest these training methods are barely sufficient to maintain their already limited physical capabilities. The camera panned to show a weightlifter clean and jerking what looked like an impressive amount to human eyes, and what the alien audience considered little more than a child's toy. "Turn it off," Lieutenant Sarah Cooper called from the testing chamber below. She stood in her powered-down Atlas suit, surrounded by holographic projections of various alien species. "We've got real work to do." Jack smiled, killing the feed. The real training facility, hidden 3 miles below the decoy one, was a far cry from the simple gym above. Sarah and her team had just finished another 16-hour session of combat integration, their suits learning and adapting to every known alien fighting style. "Latest betting odds are in," Dr. Emma Williams announced, entering the command center. "The Confederation markets are offering 10,000 to 1 against humanity scoring even a single victory." "Any takers?" Jack asked, already knowing the answer. "Every human intelligence agent we've got placed throughout the Confederation. Through shell companies and intermediaries, of course." Emma's smile was sharp. "If everything goes as planned, we'll fund Earth's next century of development, just from the gambling proceeds." Below them, Sarah's suit shimmered to life, the metacamber matrix flowing like liquid metal before settling into its combat configuration. The holographic Craxi warrior she faced was a perfect recreation from Emma's scans, right down to the crystalline muscle structure. "Show me the latest combat simulation," Jack requested. The main screen lit up with data streams as Sarah engaged the hologram. Her movements were precise, efficient, and utterly inhuman. The Atlas suit wasn't just matching Craxi's strength, it was improving on their biology, finding efficiencies their crystalline forms couldn't achieve. "They're still watching the decoy facility?" Sarah asked between strikes, her voice barely strained, despite moving at speeds that made the air crack. 24/7, Emma confirmed. "Their cultural database indicates they consider it dishonorable to skip athletic training before a competition. They think we're following their protocols, trying to show respect." "And our other champions?" Jack brought up status reports from similar facilities around the globe. In hidden bases under the Sahara, the Amazon, and the Pacific, other teams were going through the same preparations, each one specializing in countering different alien species, each suit customized to its operator's unique fighting style. "Marcus Chen has mastered the anti-gravitic configurations," he reported. "Maria Rodriguez can match a Zextil swarm form move for move. And James Wilson," he paused, checking the latest update, "just broke his own record for power output. Again." "The aliens have started calling it the Human Futility Exhibition," Emma added, her voice tight with controlled anger. "They're selling viewing rights across 50 sectors of space." Sarah's holographic opponent shattered as her fist found a perfect strike point. the real-world impact sensors registering enough force to crack actual Craxi crystal. "Let them watch," she said, her suit powering down to its stealth configuration. "Let them laugh. In 3 weeks, they'll learn what human futility really means." Jack watched as his team began another round of simulations. Above them, the world went about its business, while alien news feeds mocked humanity's apparent desperation. But down here, in the heart of the mountain, something revolutionary was taking shape. "You know what the best part is?" Emma asked, watching the training below. "They're so convinced of their superiority, they haven't even bothered to send real spies. Every bit of intelligence they're getting is exactly what we want them to see." "Arrogance," Jack nodded. "The greatest weakness of any warrior, or any species." In the chamber below, Sarah's team moved like living mercury, their suits adapting and evolving with every simulation. Soon, Jack knew, the galaxy would learn just how dangerous it was to underestimate humanity. The clock was ticking down to a revolution that none of their alien friends would ever see coming. The Mars arena stretched 2 miles across, its crystal dome filtering the pale sunlight of a Martian morning. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper stood in the preparation chamber, wearing what appeared to be simple athletic gear, while Confederation media drones buzzed around her like curious insects. "The human champion appears to be wearing some sort of primitive protection." The Zixtil commentator's voice echoed through the arena. "Though against today's opponent, Craxi War Master Vexfor, one wonders why she's bothering at all." In the VIP observation deck, Dr. Emma Williams sat between Ambassador Kovacs and President Mitchell, her neural interface recording every moment of what was about to become galactic history. The betting markets had finally closed at 1,000,000-to-1 odds against humanity. "Your champion still has time to withdraw," Kovacs offered, his crystal form vibrating with barely contained glee. "There would be no shame in—" "Let's begin," Emma interrupted, her voice carrying through the arena's acoustic enhancement system. A hush fell over the gathered aliens as Sarah stepped onto the combat platform. War Master Vexthor emerged from the opposite chamber, his 12-foot frame drawing gasps even from species used to Craxi physiology. His crystal armor had been polished to mirror brightness, ceremonial patterns etched into every plate. "I will try," he announced to the galaxy-wide audience, "to leave your champion mostly intact." His translator made the threat clear in every known language. Sarah's response was to stretch her shoulders, a casual movement that sent a barely perceptible shimmer through her athletic wear. The starting tone rang out, and Vexthor charged. His first step cracked the reinforced platform. His second created a sonic boom that had the audience clutching their various audio receptors. By all scientific analysis, his armored fist should have passed through Sarah Cooper like a hypersonic bullet through tissue paper. Instead, she caught it with one hand. The sound of crystal meeting metamaterial echoed through the stunned arena. Where simple athletic wear had been a heartbeat before, Sarah now stood encased in what looked like liquid starlight. The Atlas suit's surface rippled with energy patterns that made even the most advanced alien scientists lean forward in sudden, rapt attention. "Interesting," Sarah said, her voice amplified by the suit's external speakers. "Your crystal structure has a resonant frequency of about 18.3 kilohertz. Want to see what happens when I match it?" She didn't wait for an answer. Her free hand struck Vexthor's chest plate with surgical precision, sending harmonic vibrations through his crystalline form. Spiderweb cracks appeared across his previously impervious armor. "Impossible," Kovacs shouted from the observation deck, rising to his full height. "This is some sort off." "The word you're looking for," Emma interrupted calmly, "is technology. Something you seemed very interested in measuring during these trials." Below, Sarah released Vexthor's fist, letting the massive alien stagger back. The Atlas suit shifted like mercury, each movement generating cascading patterns of light that the Confederation's best sensors couldn't begin to map. "Your mistake," Sarah announced to the silenced arena, "was thinking that human physical evolution was our only path forward, that these bodies you mocked were our only strength." She took a step forward, the platform absorbing and redistributing the force in ways that made several alien physics experts begin frantically taking notes. "We never needed crystal bones or natural armor." Another step. "We had something better." The suit's surface briefly displayed complex mathematical equations, engineering principles that made some of the watching scientists drop their recording devices in shock. "We had innovation." Vexthor roared and charged again, bringing all his species' legendary strength to bear. Sarah met his charge with a fighter's grace, the suit analyzing and matching his every movement, before adding that crucial human element: creativity. The fight, if it could still be called that, lasted exactly 30 more seconds. When it was over, the War Master lay on his back, his crystal armor showing stress patterns that would keep Confederation scientists up for years trying to explain. "Next event?" Sarah asked, looking up at the observation deck as her suit shifted back to its camouflaged state. The silence that answered her was broken only by the sound of 1,000,000 betting computers beginning to process their payouts. In the VIP section, Emma smiled at the stunned Ambassador Kovacs. "I believe," she said quietly, "this would be an excellent time to renegotiate Earth's position in the Confederation." The second day of the trials dawned on Mars, but the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Gone was the mocking laughter, replaced by a tense silence, as Michael "Ghost" Reynolds stepped onto the testing field. The Confederation had hastily reconfigured the day's events, hoping to find some weakness in human technology. "The next trial," announced the clearly nervous Zixtil commentator, "will test stealth and infiltration capabilities. The human competitor must attempt to breach a standard Confederation security grid." In the observation deck, Emma noticed how the alien delegates tried to look confident. They'd brought in their best security systems, the kind that protected their most sensitive military installations. Surely, they thought, this would put these upstart humans in their place. "Standard grid." Michael's voice carried through the arena. "Mind if I make it interesting?" Before anyone could respond, his Atlas suit shimmered into view, but different from Sarah's configuration, where hers had been like liquid starlight. His resembled living shadow, the surface absorbing light in ways that made several alien scientists begin frantically recording data. "I'll bypass your entire security system," he announced, while dancing the Macarena. Emma had to bite back a laugh at the confusion this statement caused among the alien delegates. Their translation systems struggled with the concept, finally settling on a ritualistic human movement pattern. The security grid hummed to life. A complex web of gravity fields, quantum sensors, and energy barriers that had stopped the galaxy's best infiltrators. Michael's response was to start dancing, his movements deliberately exaggerated and playful. And as he danced, his suit performed the impossible. Each security layer he passed through simply failed to notice him. Not through brute force or technological override, but through what appeared to be mathematical poetry. The suit's surface displayed equations that caused several alien mathematicians to faint, perfect solutions to security problems they'd thought unsolvable. "He's rewriting quantum functions on the fly," one scientist whispered in horror, while dancing a primitive Earth ritual. "Actually," Emma corrected, "he's added a bit of the robot to his Macarena. Very non-traditional." The display continued as Michael reached the center of the grid, still dancing, his suit now projecting holographic partners to complete the line dance. Each hologram was also solving complex security equations, creating a performance that was equal parts mathematics and musical theater. "Next up," called Dr. Jessica Quicksilver Thompson from the starting line. "Watch me take on a Zextil swarm formation while solving Fermat's last theorem." Her suit demonstrated yet another configuration, breaking apart into hundreds of smaller components that moved with perfect coordination, each piece displaying part of the mathematical proof as she engaged the infamous Zextil combat form. "Impossible." The Craxi ambassador slammed his crystal fist down. "You must have stolen this technology. No species could develop such capabilities in isolation." Emma nodded to Colonel Anderson, who projected a century of human research and development onto the arena's main screens. Every step, every failure, every breakthrough that had led to the Atlas program, dating back to humanity's first stumbling attempts at powered exoskeletons. "We did this," Emma said quietly, but her voice carried through the silent arena. "While you were laughing at our primitive bodies, while you thought we were just trying to copy your crystal forms or match your natural advantages, we were looking for something better." Below, Jessica's swarm form dance with the Zextil warriors had become a lecture on advanced mathematics, each movement demonstrating another principle that the Confederation had fought beyond human understanding. "The best part," Michael called out as he finished his dance in the center of the now thoroughly compromised security grid. "This isn't even our latest tech. These suits," he gestured to his shadowy form, "they're what we came up with while trying to keep up with your superior species. Imagine what we'll create now that we don't have to hide anymore." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Jessica completing her mathematical proof, her swarm form components reassembling into a single suit as she took a theatrical bow. "I believe," Emma said to the stunned alien delegation, "the word you're looking for is impossible. You seem to be using it a lot today." The Confederation Emergency Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the massive space, their attention fixed on the human delegation standing before the High Council's bench. Dr. Emma Williams noted with some amusement that the Craxi seats, usually centered in the front row, had been quietly moved to the back. "Let us be clear," the Zextil High Councilor's translator rendered their chittering voice into standard Confederation speech. "You possessed this technology throughout our initial contact period." "Of course," Emma replied, standing before them in what appeared to be a standard diplomatic uniform. Everyone in the chamber now knew better than to trust appearances where humans were concerned. "We developed it long before first contact, precisely because we knew we'd eventually meet species like yours." The massive screens behind her displayed footage from the trials. Sarah Cooper dismantling a Craxi War Master's defense, Michael Reynolds dancing through unbreakable security, Jessica Thompson's mathematical symphony of swarm combat. Each display caused different species to shift uncomfortably in their seats. "And your purpose in concealing these capabilities?" a crystalline voice called from the back. The Craxi ambassador, trying to maintain some dignity. Emma's smile was diplomatic, but her eyes were steel. "You mean besides preventing certain species from attempting to claim our technology through force, or avoiding the kind of protective custody you've imposed on other primitive worlds?" The silence that followed was deafening. Several smaller species, those who'd suffered similar treatment from the Confederation's stronger members, began whispering among themselves. "We have received," the council chair announced, 17 requests for bilateral technology exchange agreements with Earth in the past hour alone. Several dozen more species have expressed interest in human protection against traditional power structures within the Confederation." "How interesting," Emma replied. "Considering how recently we were considered too primitive for basic trade rights." A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, Colonel Anderson, transmitting from Project Prometheus. "If I may add something." His image showed him standing in what was clearly a massive production facility. Behind him, Rows of Atlas suits in various configurations stretched into the distance. We've been getting some interesting readings from our long-range sensors. Several fleet movements that look an awful lot like military positioning. The Craxi delegation tried very hard to look innocent. They failed. Let me be clear, Emma's voice cut through the rising murmur. Earth has no interest in dominion over other species. We don't want your territories, your resources, or your submission. She paused, making eye contact with various representatives. What we want is something you should have offered from the start. Respect. The council chamber's screens changed again, showing new images, human scientists working alongside alien researchers, early prototypes of adaptation suits designed for non-human physiologies, medical technologies that could benefit every species present. We're prepared to share, Emma continued. Not everything, of course. No species should give away all their advantages, but we're willing to help those who demonstrate good faith, who treat us as equals rather than primitives to be conquered or controlled. And those who don't. The question came from a shadow-shrouded corner where the Confederation's military representatives sat. In response, Emma's diplomatic uniform shimmered, revealing the latest generation Atlas suit beneath. The display caused several security officers to reach for weapons they'd been told would be unnecessary in the council chamber. Those who don't, she said quietly, her suit's surface rippling with equations that made the chamber's best sensors short out, will learn why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our memory. We remember every slight, every mockery, every attempt at manipulation. And we're very, very creative about teaching lessons to those who need them. The council chamber erupted into chaos as species rushed to align themselves with humanity's new position. In the back, the Craxi delegation sat in stunned silence, wondering how they'd so completely misread the primitive species that had just revolutionized galactic society. Emma smiled, remembering their first meeting and all the mockery that had followed. Sometimes, she reflected, the best revenge wasn't just success. It was success so complete that your former critics had to line up to ask for your help. 1 year later, the Prometheus Academy opened its doors on the Martian plains, its crystal and steel architecture blending human and alien design in ways that made both species stop and stare. Dr. Emma Williams stood at the podium, facing the first class of 200 students from across the galaxy. Welcome to Earth's first interstellar technical institute, she began, her suit in its formal configuration, displaying subtle equations that had become humanity's new status symbol. Though I suppose we should say Sol's first, now that we've expanded beyond our home planet. The audience was a remarkable sight. Crystalline Craxi sitting next to insectoid Sextil, former enemies now united in their desire to understand human innovation. Several smaller species, previously ignored by the Confederation, had been given priority enrollment. Some of you, Emma continued, noting the Craxi students trying to make themselves less conspicuous, came from species that once mocked our primitive bodies. Others represented worlds that suffered similar treatment. Today, none of that matters. What matters is what you're willing to learn. The main display behind her showed footage from the past year. New trade routes established using human navigation technology, medical breakthroughs using adapted Atlas systems, and the first successful cultural exchange programs between previously hostile species. Colonel Anderson, now Director of Interstellar Relations, stepped forward. In the past year, we've seen something remarkable. Not just the technology sharing or the military adjustments, but a fundamental shift in how species interact. The question is no longer who's naturally strongest, but who's most willing to innovate, to adapt, to think beyond their own biology. The screen changed to show the latest generation of Atlas suits, no longer just for human use. Each design had been carefully adapted for different species, enhancing their natural abilities while adding uniquely human innovations. Your first lesson, Emma announced, isn't about technology. It's about understanding why we kept our capabilities hidden for so long." She gestured, and her suit displayed the original footage of the Craxi ambassador crushing that first microscope. We knew that power without wisdom would lead to exactly what we'd seen throughout the Confederation: stronger species dominating weaker ones, technology being used for control rather than progress. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper, now a chief combat instructor, demonstrated by having her suit split into its component forms before reassembling. The Atlas system isn't just about making its user stronger. It's about adapting, about finding new ways to solve problems. That's what humanity does best. We don't just overcome challenges, we transform them into opportunities. The students watched in awe as the latest training session began in the Academy's main arena. Human instructors worked alongside alien associates, teaching not just the technology, but the philosophy behind it. The sight of a Craxi warrior learning subtle control rather than brute force, or a Zixtal swarm learning human dance patterns to improve their coordination, would have been unthinkable a year ago. "Your species mocked our bodies," Emma concluded, her voice carrying through the hall. "But they never understood that our physical form wasn't our greatest asset. It was our minds, our creativity, our ability to look at our own limitations and see opportunities for growth. That's what you're here to learn." She touched her suit's control surface, and the entire Academy's external shell became transparent, revealing the Martian sunset beyond. "Look around you. A year ago, many of your species were enemies. Today, you're classmates. That's the real power of human innovation. Not just making better technology, but finding better ways to use it." The assembly ended with an announcement that would have been shocking just a year earlier. The Craxi and Zixtil delegations had jointly proposed a new Confederation charter, one based on innovation and cooperation rather than natural advantages. The species that had once led through force were learning to lead through innovation instead. As the students filed out to begin their first classes, Emma caught sight of a young Craxi crystal form helping a smaller species with their equipment. Perhaps, she reflected, the greatest victory wasn't in proving human strength, but in teaching others that true power came from looking beyond physical limitations to see the potential within. The stars had called humanity primitive. Now they came to learn from us, and the galaxy was better for it.